Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, good morning, students. Today I am teaching flood frequency studies. So, what is flood frequency? If we arrange, because every year there is a peak flood. I mean, if we measure discharge in any river, and in every year there is a peak flow. And if we arrange those peak flows in decreasing order, or if we plot all the peaks with year, that will be a kind of a flood frequency, floods time series. And from that, because from that we can find the mean and as well as standard deviation, and using these statistical variables or statistical parameters, we can estimate a flood discharge with a given return period. So I'm going to explain that in this lecture. So the most important thing that we are learning in this lecture is how to calculate a flood peak for a given return period. So I'm going to explain what is return period. So to estimate flood peaks, these four are standard methods: unit hydrograph method, empirical method, semi-empirical method. The last method, that is the most important method, that is flood frequency studies. So already I taught you unit hydrograph technique. So in unit hydrograph technique, if you know unit hydrograph for a DO duration for a given catchment, then for a given excess rainfall in that catchment for the duration, we can find peak discharge using the unit hydrograph technique. But this unit hydrograph is available only for only a few important catchments. Remote catchments, we may not have unit hydrograph, or areas which are underdeveloped, we may not be having unit hydrograph. So to know the peak discharges in those areas, we have to go for a different method than unit hydrograph. So those methods are empirical method, semi-empirical method, and flood frequency studies. But before that, why we need to know a flood peak? Because we may be constructing an hydraulic structure. We may be constructing a hydraulic structure such as uh, reservoir, a spillway, dam, or even a bridge, okay, canal, etc. So to carry the safe passage of water, we need to know what is the peak flood, because that is a worst case scenario. So we have to be prepared for that, so that there is no economic and human loss. So we already know the unit hydrograph technique. So next we will discuss empirical method, semi-empirical method, and flood frequency studies. So this unit hydrograph method, which is restricted for a catchment size less than 5,000 kilometer square. So even this empirical method, semi-empirical method, they are for catchments even far less than 5,000 kilometers square. So this we can say that this 5,000 kilometers is a moderate size. Bigger than this size, we may have to go for ACS curve number method. And if a catchment is small, then if unit radiograph is not available, we can go for empirical method and semi-empirical methods. So empirical formula, in empirical methods, they establish a relation between discharge and area. So such equation is like Q is equal some constant into area power n, where area is exponent, that is less than 1, and C is a constant. Why this is the empirical formula? You can see that left hand side is discharge, whereas right hand side is area. So units are not matching. Okay, so therefore it is a empirical method. What here in empirical method, how this formula derived? Because lot of catchment areas will be studied. So area is known for each catchment area, and we know also peak discharge. Then using the regression, we can fit a relation between discharge and area. So this is a simple empirical formula. The important empirical formulas are Dickens formula, that is QP is equal constant A power 0.75. Rice formula, that is QP is equal constant into A power 0.66. Then English formula, that gives QP is equal 124A divided by square root of A plus 10A. And these formulas, because they have developed for certain regions. For example, in India, like West Coast, so that is one region. Okay, so one of the empirical formula works only for that, and there is a East Coast, so another empirical formula that works for East Coast. So what I mean to say that these empirical formulas are developed for a specific region, and they can be applied only for those regions or regions which have similar landscape and similar rainfall characteristics. We can use empirical formula, but empirical formula is not accurate because the error will be very high. So in the recent days, there is a minimum scope for empirical formulas, because as we are more developed day by day, a lot of catchment areas now available with unit hydrographs, or even the latest methods such as semi-empirical methods such as SAS, CN method is well developed. So empirical methods now we can say obsolete in present scenario. So semi-empirical formula, these are under this there are two important formulas, rational method and SCS curve number method. So rational method, this is applicable for small catchments with size less than 50 kilometers square, and rational method is used for designing bridges and culverts. Okay, rational method cannot be used for designing dams and reservoirs because they need very big catchment size. Why? Suppose already I taught you, I gave you introduction of rational method in surface runoff chapter. So it is a formula Q is equal constant into intensity into area of the catchment. So you can see that units are matching on both sides, but it is not, although units are matching both sides, it is not a analytical method. Okay, it is still it is semi-empirical because there is a constant C is there, and you know that the constant C is a function of the surface conditions, whether it is cultivated, non-cultivated, paved, or grass, etc. So C is an empirical number, so therefore it is a semi-empirical formula. And second important semi-empirical method is SES curve number method. So this method was also taught to you in surface runoff. This method is developed by Soil Conservation Service of United States. Okay, so because in this method, if you know the precipitation P, then we identify a curve number for that area, I mean in which we need to calculate design flood. So the curve number, it is a function of antecedent moisture condition and as well as type of surface, whether it is paved or it is partly paved or it has trees or so different kind of surfaces have different curve number methods. So once curve number is identified, then because once curve number is identified, then we can find the infiltration and initial obstructions of the catchment area, because the retention storage, yes, we can calculate from curve number, and once retention storage is known, then initial obstructions are taken as like 20% of retention storage. So finally we'll get uh, excess rainfall. Once we know excess rainfall, that can be used to determine I mean there are formulas are available again to calculate the peak runoff. So now let's discuss rational method in detail. So rational method gives a formula for peak discharge, that is QP is equal 2.78 constant into intensity of rainfall into area. And here, because there is a, you can see in this formula there is a 2.78 number, because this is used for unit conversion, because left hand side it is meter cube per second and on the right hand side the intensity is in centimeter per hour and area is in kilometer square. Okay, so therefore we need to convert that units into meter cube per second, so therefore there is a 2.78. In this formula the intensity, so that intensity is, it is not any intensity, okay, because this intensity is corresponds to uh, mean intensity of precipitation for a duration equal to time of concentration with an exceedance probability of P. So here you may wonder what is this exceedance probability of P. Exceedance probability is, that is the probability of reaching a flood peak which is a certain number equal to or more than that. Suppose if we have let us say the probability of like 500 exceedance probability of 500 meter cube per second. So what is that? So in a given year, the probability of occurring greater than or equal to discharge of 500 meter cube per second. So that is called as exceedance probability. And the mean intensity. So intensity is nothing but the rainfall depth collected in a given duration. That is rainfall depth divided by the duration of the rainfall. The duration of the rainfall is equal to the time of concentration. So what is time of concentration? So time of concentration is in a catchment area, the maximum time taken by the water reaching from farthest point to the outlet. So at the time of concentration, the water from all the corners of the catchment uh, reach the outlet, because the nearest point they reach outlet quickly, but whereas the farthest point that takes longer time. But when it reaches the outlet, by that time water from all the parts of that catchment already reached outlet. So at that point, the discharge will be maximum. So if you look at uh, uh, hydrograph, especially if you look at the direct runoff, so the time rainfall begins to the time the peak discharge occurs. So the time between these two events is a time of concentration. So in this formula, that is a rational method, QP is equal 2.78 C I TCP A. In this formula, the unknowns are TC, and as well as that is time of concentration is unknown, and the intensity of precipitation in that time of concentration is unknown, and as well as the coefficient C unknown. So there are three unknowns, and there are different again empirical equations are available to calculate these three unknowns. So first thing, the time of concentration. So time of concentration, the popular method to estimate time of concentration is Kirpik equation. So that is given here. Time of concentration is equal 0.01947 L power 0.77 S power minus 0.385. So here time of concentration in minutes, and L is maximum length of travel of water, or we can say, you can say that that is the distance of farthest point from the outlet in a catchment. There is a unit is in meters, and S is slope of catchment, that is equal to delta H by L. Delta H is difference between elevations of remote point and the outlet. So we can say that if we connect the farthest point to the outlet by shortest length, or along the water course length, then the elevation difference between the farthest point and outlet divided by the length of the water course from farthest point to the outlet, that gives the slope of the catchment. So you can see that because the rational method is called semi-empirical method, because this equation is also an empirical equation. So next important thing to calculate is rainfall intensity, that is ITCP. So this ITCP, that rainfall intensity corresponding to duration of time of concentration and with a desired probability of exceedance P. So this ITCP, this is obtained from IDF curves. Already I taught you what is IDF curve. So IDF curve is a plot between intensity, duration and frequency. So which relates, this IDF curve relates intensity with duration of that rainfall, and as well as the return period, that is frequency of the rainfall with that intensity ITC comma P. So those curves, they are kind of a power curve. We can, I mean, those IDF curves can be expressed as a power law. So that is given as ITC comma P is equal K T power x divided by TC plus A power n. In this K, A, X and N, they are specific to a catchment area, and here the T in this equation, T is a return period. So return period is equal to 1 by P. So I will come to that, how to calculate return period of a given flood and how to calculate its probability. That I will come to, that I will explain in the next slide. So in the rational method, because rational method is generally used for uh, catchment areas less than 50 kilometers square, but even this 50 kilometers square catchment area, it can have different zones, because within that catchment area some part is having grass and other part is might be having buildings and some part might have roads, etc. So to calculate runoff coefficient for this entire region, we may call it as a equivalent runoff coefficient. So that is calculated as CIAI, I mean summation of CIAI by A for all regions within the catchment. So CI is, I mean, what we are doing here, we are dividing the catchment area into small areas, and each area has a runoff coefficient and as a area. So we are multiplying the runoff coefficient with area for all sub areas in that region divided by total area, that gives equivalent runoff coefficient. And values of C. So C is a function of the type of surface and as well as return period. So here a table is given. So this table is taken from Vintage Applied Hydrology book. So you can see that C is varying for developed areas and undeveloped areas, cultivated areas, forests, and even for same area, as return period increases, the runoff coefficient increases. So if you know the return period for which we need to calculate the discharge and as well as type of area, then we can find C from this table. So let us do a few examples. So this is an example. An urban catchment has an area of 85 hectares. The slope of the catchment is 0.006 and the maximum length of travel of water is 950 meter, and maximum depth of rainfall with a 25-year return period is given in the table below. So duration and the accumulated depth of the rainfall is given in the tabular format. And if a culvert for drainage at the outlet of this basin is to be designed for a return period of 25 years, estimate the required peak flow rate by assuming good grass condition. So the assumption is given in the question itself, that is a good grass condition, and the return period is 25 years. So you see that in the table for 25 okay, so you can see that in this table for 25-year return period and good grass condition, that is given as C is equal 0.29. Okay. So here this 0 to 2%, 2 to 7%, these are the slope of the area. So in this, it is a flat area with good grass condition, and for 25-year return period flood, the runoff coefficient is uh, found as 0.29. So now the rational formula is QP is equal 2.78 C ITCP A. So now C is known, area is known, that is 85 hectares. We have to find this intensity of duration, time of concentration. So from Kirpik formula, for to find the intensity of the rainfall in a duration, time of concentration, we need to know time of concentration. So Kirpik formula that gives the time of concentration. So that is 0.01947 L power 0.77 S power minus 0.385. So in this question, the already the slope is given 0.006. Okay, and L is given. So L is the maximum length of travel of water is 950 meters. So all the variables are known. So we can calculate time of concentration as 27.4 minutes. Now we need to find intensity of rainfall at 27.4 minute duration. So for that, because we have got the rainfall values at 10-minute interval. So we have to find the rainfall at 27.4 minutes. By using linear interpolation, we obtain the precipitation at time of concentration as 47.4 mm. But we need to know the intensity. So intensity is precipitation divided by the duration of the time. So 47.4 by 10, because that gives rainfall depth in centimeters, and divided by 27.4 by 60, because this 27.4 by 60 that gives uh, time of concentration in terms of hours. So therefore the intensity is calculated as 10.38 centimeter per hour. So now we have known all the values in the rational formula. When we substitute all of them, we get 7.11 meter cube per second. You see here in the rational formula, the area should be in kilometer square, but area is given as 85 hectares. So 85 into 10 power minus 2, that gives 0.85 kilometer square. So we have got the peak discharge as 7.11 meter cube per second with 25-year return period. So another example, an engineer is required to design a drainage system for an airport of area 2.5 kilometers square for 50-year return period. The equation of rainfall intensity is given as I is equal capital D by T plus 10 or 0.38. So in this equation, I is equal rainfall intensity, T is duration in minutes, and capital T is return period. So if the concentration time for the area estimated as 50 minutes, that small t is given as 50 minutes, then what discharge that airport drainage system must be designed. So from IDF curves, the equation is given I is equal capital T by T plus 10 power 0.38. T is return period, that is 50 year, and small t, that is duration of the rainfall, that is given as 15 minutes. Okay, so from this formula we obtain intensity is equal 10.55 centimeter per hour. So C is 0.9, because from the table you see for 50-year return, because the airport, I mean the runway and etc., they are completely either asphalt, it is asphalt, okay, or and the buildings, everything is in concrete. Okay, so for 50-year return period, we can take either 0.90 or 0.92. So in this, we have assumed the discharge, coefficient as 0.9, runoff coefficient as 0.9, and the intensity of storm at time of concentration duration is 10.55. So when we substitute all the values, we have got the peak discharge is 65.99 meter cube per second. So next, frequency analysis. This is a typical figure. If a river discharge, if we plot yearly, the peak discharge yearly, then the series will be looks like this, where this A is the peak within that year. So in 19 January to 19 January 1996 to January 1997, the peak value is given here. That is somewhere around 80. Then from January 1997 to January 1998, the peak value are somewhere 70. But the peak value during January 1998 to January 1999 is around 1,400 units. So if we plot the discharge versus years, then it's kind of a series. So once a series is available, we can find a frequency of a flood. So therefore, this is called as a frequency analysis. So for frequency analysis for floods, so they constitute an hydrological cycle, hydrological series, and therefore flood peak as a frequency. Frequency means for how many years it is reoccurring. That is frequency. So the annual maximum floods of a catchment for a large number of successive years constitute a hydrologic series that is called as annual series. So if the data arranged in decreasing order and the probability P of each event being equal or except is calculated by a Weibull formula. So this Weibull, it is a probability distribution. So Weibull, he has given a probability of a equal or exceeding of a rainfall event. If we know the annual series of the flood, and he has given the probability of exceedance is equal m by n plus 1, whereas n is the sample size, that is the how many years of data we are using it to calculate probability, that gives the n. But whereas m, so m is the rank. If we arrange the floods in decreasing order, then m is the rank, but that also gives us probability of exceeding of that extreme event in next m years. So T is nothing but 1 by P, that is equal to n plus 1 by m. So the reciprocal of exceedance probability, that is called as return period. That means after that, suppose today an extreme flood event occurred, then for the same it will occur after t years. Okay, that is called as return period. So after t years, again it takes another t years to occur that. Of course, it is all probability. I mean, it is not. It is doesn't mean that if suppose a 100-year return 100 return period flood occurred today, it doesn't mean that it will only occur after another 100 years. Not like that. But in terms of probability, it may occur in uh, after 100 years. But these are all rainfall events are natural and very complex events. So it may also occur tomorrow, but the probability of occurring tomorrow is very low. So let's do uh, one example. Okay. Before that, suppose return period T is equal 1 by PE, where P is the exceedance probability. So for 100-year flood, that is T is equal 100-year. So probability of exceedance is equal 0.01. That means an 100-year flood, its probability to occur in any given year is only 0.01. That is nothing but 1%. Similarly, a 20-year flood, the probability of 20-year flood occurring in any given year is equal to 0.05. That means 5%. So this is a numerical example. So annual maximum recorded flood series of river Koina, that is a tributary of Godavari. Uh, so Koina River is in that is existing in Maharashtra. So at in that river, at one of the location, the recorded flood series of 42 years is given below. Then from this, find flood magnitude of return period 15 years or 50 years. Then next, the discharge of 4000 meter cube per second is given. We need to find its return period. Okay, so if the time is given, we can find flood magnitude, or flood magnitude is given, we can also find its return period. So this is uh, the years and as well as peak discharge in that year, in those years. So 1967, the peak discharge is 3,830. In 1968, only it is 757. Then 1969, it is 1605. So what we have to do, we have to arrange the discharges in decreasing order. So it is arranged here. So we can see that the maximum discharge, because this data is 42 years, we have obtained data for 42 years. So for those 42 discharges, if we put it in decreasing order, the table is given here. In 2006, the peak discharge is 4,973 and its rank is 1. Next peak discharge occurred in 2005, that is 4,641. So its rank is 2. Similarly, so on and so forth, we can arrange all of the discharges and their ranks. So rank is M. Then the recurrence interval, that is nothing but n plus 1 by m. N is 42. So 42 plus 1 divided by m, that is equal to, that is 1. So n plus 1 by m is equal to 43. So that is a recurrence interval of this discharge 4973. So from this, what we can say that this recurrence interval of the 4973 meter cube per second is 43 years. So this can only occur once in 43 years. And similarly, the next discharge is 4641. Its rank is 2 and return interval is 21.5. That is capital N plus 1 by M. So 43 divided by 2, that is equal to 21.5. That means what this says, that the flood discharge more than or equal to 4641 can occur every 21.50 years. So the least discharge is 623 and its rank is 42. So its return period is 1.02. That means every year the discharge more than or equal to 623 definitely occurs because its probability is its return period is 1. That means every year minimum discharge can occur in this river at that given location is 623 meter cube per second. Now let's plot the return period, that is nothing but recurrence interval on x-axis on log scale and discharges on y-axis. Since the time period is in log series, so the plot is a kind of a straight line. And the equation of this line is given here. Y is equal 1132.81 log x plus 685.53. Here x is nothing but return period. So the question in this problem is, first question in this problem, flood magnitude, determine flood magnitude with a return period of 15 years. So in this equation, instead of x, if you put 15, that gives the flood peak with return period 15 years, that is equal to 3753.2. Similarly, for t is equal 50 years, for t is equal 50 years, for t is equal 50 years, we substitute 50 in this equation, then we'll get cube is equal 5117.1. So you see that as the return period increases, the flood discharge value increasing. And the third question in this problem is find return period of a discharge 4000 cumex. That means here the discharge is given, but we have to find the t value, return period. So in this equation, we have to equate 4000 is equal 1132.8 log x plus 685.53, and we need to find the x value. So that is given as 18.65 years. So that means every 18.56 years there is a probability to occur this 4000 meter cube per second in this river at that location. So now let's discuss some basic probability distributions, and the most important probability distribution is normal probability distribution. And you know that, so normal probability distribution is a plot between a probability and probability occurrence of a random event. And this normal probability distribution, the probability density function f of x is equal, given by this equation, 1 by sigma root 2 pi x exponential of minus 1 by 2 x minus 2 by sigma square. And in this, the x is a random number, whereas this mu and sigma are these statistic parameters. Mu is the sample mean and sigma is the sample standard deviation. So normal probability distribution can be described by standard deviation and mean. So because why it's called as normal probability distribution, so most of the phenomena in this world, they follow normal probability distributions. For example, heights of adults, weights of adults, then weight of babies, or marks in an entrance exam, and measurement errors of an instrument. They all follow normal probability distribution. So normal probability distribution, it has got some important uh, characteristics, because within one standard deviation the probability is 68%, and within two standard deviations the probability is 95%, and within three standard deviations the probability occurrence is 99.7%. So what this standard deviation says, because the most of the events, they are grouping near the mean, and as we go away from the mean of that random variable, then the probability is decreasing. And so the height of this normal distribution is given by the mu, whereas the flatness of this normal distribution is given by the sigma. Because to make it standard, because here in this curve normal probability distribution, x has got a unit. It can be height of a person, or marks in exam, or diameter of a watermelon, etc. So these are the units. So therefore it differs the shape and size. But to make it non-dimensional, we have to make it this x as non-dimensional. So that is given by this z, that is x minus mu by sigma. Then it become non-dimensional. Then the normal probability distribution is called as a standard normal probability distribution, because the rainfall events or flood events, they follow extreme probability distribution. They don't follow normal distribution. But even to explain or to discuss extreme probability distributions, we need to know about standard normal distribution. Therefore, I'm explaining this. So here, one problem is given. The annual rainfall in Krishna River Basin has been estimated as a mean of 130 centimeter and a standard deviation of 15.6 centimeter. Assuming that annual rainfall is normally distributed, what is the probability of having an annual rainfall of less than 101.6 centimeter? Of course, the rainfall doesn't follow normal distribution, but just to explain normal distribution, this example has been considered, where z is equal x minus mu by sigma, x is equal 101.6, and where the mean of the rainfall is 130 centimeter and standard deviation of rainfall is 15.6, so that is equal to minus 1.82. And the probability, because the cumulative probability, that is p z less than or equal to minus 1.82. So because the cumulate, the probability density function of normal probability distribution is this equation, and for cumulative probability distribution we have to integrate this. Okay, so the integration is not easy. We have to use either trapezoidal formula or Simpson formula, but readily in logarithm books we can get standard normal distribution tables. Okay, so if you know the z value, we can get the left hand side area of the z. So in this example, our z value is minus 1.82, but standard normal distribution tables gives only positive z values. Therefore, we have to make some little arrangement. This pz less than or equal to minus 1.82, that is equal to pz greater than or equal to 1.82, and for this 1.82, z is equal to 1.82, we can get the probability, cumulative probability is 0.9656, but we have to know the right side of the Z value, that is therefore it's 100 minus 96.56, that is 3.4%. So that means if this rainfall distribution, annual rainfall follows normal distribution, then the probability of annual rainfall less than 101.6 centimeter is 3.4%. So next important probability distribution is binomial distribution. This binomial distribution is a discrete probability distribution. So it involves only two outcomes, either success or failure. For example, if we toss a coin, either it is head or tails. Okay, so only two outcomes, and the outcome of any trial is independent of any other trial. So this all explains about binomial distribution. And but any either binomial distribution, that is a normal probability distribution, is a continuous distribution. So either it is a continuity distribution or it is a discrete distribution. We need to know the two important definitions: the probability mass function PMF and cumulative distribution function CDF. So probability mass function is that gives straight answer for calculating the probability of that x equals to certain number. Px is equal to x is PMF. So that is given by this formula here. F of x is equal to 1 by sigma root 2 pi exponential this. Whereas cumulative distribution function that gives the formula for calculating accumulated probability 0 to x, that is Px less than or equal to x. If you look at in this standard normal distribution, so we are calculating P of z less than z, P of capital Z less than z. That means the probability of occurring less than or equal to that given value. So that constitutes from 0 to up to that value, probability of 0 to up to that value. So this is cumulative distribution function. Now binomial distribution is important because we'll do few examples on binomial distribution. Before that, the binomial distribution is a combination. So suppose the probability of an event occurring r times in n successive years, if its probability is p, then r times in probability of occurring r times in n successive years given by prn, that is nothing but ncr pr q power n minus r, and probable whereas because here p plus q is equal 1, q is equal 1 minus p. The probability of the event not occurring at all in n successive years, so that is equal to nc0 p0 qn. nc0 is equal 1 and p power 0, that is equal to 1. So that is equal to q power n, but q is equal 1 minus p. So therefore the p r0 is equal 1 minus p power n. This is n actually. The probability of the event occurring at least once in n successive years is given by, so that means the probability of an event occurring at least once in n successive years, that is given by 1 minus probability of that event not occurring at all. So that is equal to 1 minus q power n. Q is equal 1 minus p. So 1 minus of 1 minus p power n. So let's do two examples with binomial distribution. First example, in a rainy season, there is 60% chance that it will rain on any particular day in a week. So any particular, in rainy season, any particular day, the chance of rainfall in a week is 60%. Now we have to find what is the probability that there will be exactly 4 rainy days in a week. So now the P is equal, that is rainfall, probability of rainfall on any day in a week, that is equal to 0.6. Q is equal 1 minus P, that is equal to 0.4. Now we need to find probability of n 4 rainy days in a week. So that means we have to find 7 4 success out of 7 trials. So that is given as 7C4 0.6 power 4 0.443, that is called 0.29%. That means the probability of 4 rainy days in a week in the rainy season is 29%. So another example is the probability of annual maximum discharge Q in the river Ganges exceeds 500,000 CFS is 0.195. Estimate the probability of Q greater than this 500,000 CFS at least once during next 3 years. So in a given year, the discharge exceeding this 500,000 CFS is given as 0.195. Now we have to find what is the probability of occurring this exceeding this discharge in next 3 years. So first we have to find P is equal, that is rainfall, discharge exceeding this 500,000 CFS in a given year is, in any year is 0.195, and the probability of less than discharge less than 500,000 CFS is 1 minus P, that is 0.805. Now we have to find the discharge exceeding this 500,000 CFS not at all occurring in next 3 years. So that is given as 1 minus, that is Q power 3, that is 1 minus P power 3. But at least once in next 3 years, that is equal to 1 minus not at all occurring in next 3 years, that is 1 minus of P power 3. So this is equal to 0.48%. So the probability of not exceeding this 500,000 CFS discharge in next 3 years is 48%. So because these extreme rainfall events with the return periods like 100 years, 500 years, 1000 years, they do not follow normal distribution. They follow extreme probability distribution. So what is extreme probability distribution? It is a probability of a random event without bounds. So how it's different from normal distribution is these extreme probability distributions, they have a skewness. So these extreme probability distributions, to represent extreme probability distribution, the normal probability equation has to be little bit modified so that it will not have skewness. So, but even to use these extreme probability distributions, we need to know the statistical parameters obtained from the data. What are those statistical parameters? Mean and standard deviation. So these are mean and standard deviation have to be obtained from the flood series. Then we can use this extreme probability distribution to find extreme floods. So it is already now 12. It's going to be 12 p.m. So I will continue my lecture tomorrow. Okay. So let's have our class as scheduled from 8 a.m. tomorrow. So I will teach this remaining chapter of flood frequencies. Then I will also cover the design floods. So tomorrow is the last class, and we will be completing the syllabus of surface water hydrology. So if you have any questions from today's lecture, let me know please.